And welcome back, everybody, to another week of God in the Timber podcast. A little funny tad bit. I just recorded like 15 minutes of this and realized I didn't have my mic hooked up. So we get to redo it. But want to thank y'all for joining in for another week. Um, want to thank if you watch the video on the YouTube, if you see all the brought to you by, thank y'all for helping out with the podcast. If y'all, the way that y'all support the company support me, it's not monetary. I don't get paid by them. Um, but they have helped me grow in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So, and they do help promote. So thank you. Before I get started, July the 17th through the 19th, I will be in the Buzzard Roost Saddles booth at the World Deer Expo in Birmingham, Alabama. So if you are around, come say hi. Let's talk. I'll put you in a saddle. If you don't want to get in a saddle, come get in one anyways. Nah. Uh, just come say hi. I like talking to people. Which is funny. If you ask my wife or my wife's friends when they first met me, they thought I was a butthole because I'm not a very easy person to communicate with until you get to know me, unless we have a common interest type deal. So yeah, I'm actually a pretty nice guy once you get to know me. Um, so I just got off of work. Like I said, I work graveyard shift, and on my way home, I was like, "What kind of story should I tell today?" And I started thinking, I ain't told many fishing stories on here because, to be honest with y'all, I'm not big a fisherman. I like bow fishing, but I'm not that big of a fisherman. And then it clicked. I'm going to tell y'all a story about fishing with my daddy and losing a rod that I probably had for 6 hours. So my dad reached out to me. I think it was probably a year before he actually passed away. And he's like, "Hey, let's go fishing." And I was like, "Okay, that'd be awesome. I ain't fished with my daddy in a while." For some reason, I had to buy a new rod. Don't know why. Might have lost mine. No idea. Uh, so I went to Academy and bought their little. I'm a big bait caster fan. I love bait caster, and I bought me a new bait caster. It was just their little combo, and we head down there to a spot that we've always fished. It's the down there at the rocks at Waterloo. If you know where I'm talking about, you know where I'm talking about. Well, rigged that. Well, it was catfishing. Rigged it up, casted that old chicken liver out there, and it hit the bottom. I'm like, yeah. So I tightened my line up. This is at the point in my life where I wanted to be TikTok famous. At this point, it wasn't God in the Timber. It was called Southern Pride Outdoors. That was what me and my buddy started originally. And then I branched off to God in the Timber. And so, yeah. Well, I'm on, and I'm pretty sure you can find it on the God in the Timber TikTok. I'm no longer on TikTok. I don't do the TikTok thing anymore. Um, but if you scroll back far enough, you can find it. I didn't have a beard. I shaved my beard off. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out here in my hometown fishing with my dad. Look how pretty it is out here. And pretty much, ain't you jealous about my hometown? Blah, 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 blah. Remember, the whole time, my bait's out in the water. So I end the TikTok, turn it around, and I'm typing that description, that attention grabbing description, where this is going to get millions of views just based off my description is how I felt. I'm not paying attention, and this does fit into our lesson about not paying attention. But I'm not paying attention. If anybody knows about catfishing, a lot of times, catfish will hit and it'll put slack in that line, and all of a sudden it just makes it taut and it's gone. Like, best be ready. So I'm assuming it was a catfish because I looked down and the line went slack, and then that line and rod went, Mach speed into the water. I'm surprised it didn't carry a wake behind how quick that rod hit the water. Well, I jumped up and I'm running down the rocks. Oh, no, 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 no. I thought screaming. My dad's like, "What are you doing?" Like, he done thought I went crazy, apparently. That's what I'm assuming. He thought I went crazy. And I just turned around and looked at him and I was like, well, I don't have a rod no more. And I ended up fishing the rest of the day with one of my dad's spare rods. But needless to say, my wife wasn't too happy whenever I come home and I was like, "Hey, you know that rod that I just bought like 6 hours ago?" It's swimming in the river somewhere, so now I gotta go buy another one. Yeah. So I will tell y'all maybe next week. I might try to do a few fishing stories since it is summertime. Um, Even though our lessons are related to hunting, I will throw in some fishing, which not paying attention does fit into this lesson. So, lesson number 3 of this 6-week lessons: aim small, miss small. As bow hunters, we all know what that means. We've heard it from the time we started shooting a bow until probably until you just heard it on here again. We gotta, as a lot of people says, pick a hair. So what we're doing today is we are moving from discipline to precision. So we've stepped out of our comfort zone. We've had discipline on preparing before the harvest, which was last week. Now we have to be precise on what we're doing. So you can step out of your comfort zone, you can build discipline, but without focus, your effort is scattered. In the outdoors, in hunting, precision matters. You do not aim at the entire animal, you aim at a specific point. A small target equals a controlled shot. And spiritually, a vague faith produces a vague growth. And a clear focus produces clear impact. So if we look in Philippians 3:13 and 14, we see where Paul presses towards a goal. He doesn't drift from that goal. He intentionally pursues what lies ahead of him. And then in James 1:8, it says a double-minded person is unstable in all of their ways. So if we look at these scriptures, a divided focus will lead to instability. If Paul turned his focus somewhere else, he would have wavered off that path, top deal. So point number 1, divided focus weakens faith. So we often try to follow Christ while holding on to worldly things. Our comfort competes with our calling. Our culture competes with our convictions. Distraction competes with devotion. And James warns that a double-minded, going back up to James 1:8, James warns that double-minded living creates instability. You cannot aim at 2 targets at once and expect accuracy. So let's put that in hunting terms. If I draw back on a buck and I'm sitting there staring at that buck's rack while aiming at its heart, that's not a very accurate shot because I'm staring at its rack. So I'm not staring at the point of impact. I'm staring up here at its head. Or no, you could be staring at her ears, I guess. I don't know. But this is where we all need to ask ourselves, where is my focus being divided at right now? Um, Point number 2, clear targets create growth. So sitting down and making clear targets for yourself. Um, in archery, aim small, miss small means precision increases your margin. So just to stop right there for just a little bit. The 6-point I killed on public land last year, broken up. He should have been an 8-point, but he was a 6-point. When I pulled back on him and I missed the first time, I've told that story. I missed the first time because I rushed the shot, didn't range him right. So the second time, whenever I pulled back on him, I was aiming at a specific point, and whenever I executed the shot, I missed where I was aiming at. But luckily enough, I still hit him double lung. I hit about 2 inches higher than I wanted to, and still double lung shot. He made 10 yards and was down. So I had that margin. I wasn't aiming at the entire animal. I was aiming at a specific point, and I still hit into the vitals. So spiritually, vague growth produces vague results. A lot of times we say, well, I want to grow. I want to grow in Christ. I want to grow spiritually. But we have to define what growth actually looks like. So start out with consistent prayer, um, memorizing scriptures, leading devotion once per week. You can do it with your family. What pushed me to start growing even more in Christ was leading the Killshot Bible study, which is the lessons that we're going over now. That pushed me, that made me grow. Um, Serving intentionally. And that's a big thing. Serving intentionally, not serving because you have to, but because you want to. Serving it with intention. Clarity sharpens your commitment. Point number 3. If we go to Hebrews 12:1, it says to lay aside every weight and sin that entangles us. Not all distractions are sinful, but they are still distractions. What I'm recording this podcast on is a distraction, my phone. Um, just general business is a distraction. Just having to constantly be moving is a distraction. One of the ones that I always struggled with was comparison. Comparing myself to other people, trying to keep up with the Joneses type deal. Um, that was a distraction. If something pulls your attention from Christ, it affects your accuracy. So I used this while ago in the part of the podcast whenever I wasn't recording, but every hunter nowadays, we carry our phones with us because we're looking at maps, we're doing everything. Our phone is always on us. So imagine you pull back on a world-class bug. I mean, you are drawn back, you're in your anchor point, you are ready. And right before you start executing that shot, you're beep, 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 and your mind's like, oh, my phone. And then you slap the trigger and you made a bad shot because you got distracted. You wasn't focused on the calling. You wasn't focused on the point of impact. You got distracted. And now maybe you hit vitals. Hopefully you did if it's a world-class buck. So hopefully you hit vitals. But what if you just pulled the shot off and shot right over its back because you are right underneath it because you was distracted? That buck that I ended up killing that I just told a quick story about, I missed him in October because I was distracted whenever he walked in. I had him at 40 yards texting my buddy. Went to draw back, arrow fell off the shelf, and it made that sound whenever it hit the aluminum. And he bounded off. So I think he ended up getting like 50 yards, 60 yards, which I'm very confident in shooting that in wide open areas. And I draw back, settled the pin, expecting him to drop. At 60 yards, I put it right on his body line, the lower part of his body, because I expected him at 60 yards. He's already nervous. I expected him to drop. Fired the shot off. He didn't drop. He didn't jump the string. And I literally watched the arrow go straight underneath him so I missed him the first time because I was distracted. I should have had that deer at 40 yards, dead to rights. But I was distracted texting, didn't even realize he walked in until he was right there on me. So we have to eliminate distractions. Ask yourself, I ask myself this, what needs to be removed so I can aim clearly? What needs to be removed from my life that I can aim clearly at what God has called me to do? So our questions, our deep reflection questions, is number 1, where is my spiritual focus currently divided? Number 2, what distraction most consistently steals my attention? Number 3, what one clear spiritual target should I define for the next 30 days? This is a challenge for y'all. For the next 30 days, pick one thing and hammer it. Number 4, if I stay unfocused, what impact will that have on my future? So your practical application this week is I want you to write down one spiritual growth target, remove one distraction competing with that goal, track your progress. It's easy to track it. If you go to the gym, you track your progress in the gym. Why can't you track your progress spiritually? Share your target with someone for accountability. That's a big one. Like if I would set a target, I'm going to tell my wife about it. And my wife will be like, hey, like right now I'm trying to get back down to 200 pounds, roughly 200 pounds or under. And if I tell my wife, hey, I'm trying to get down to 200 pounds and I go in here and I eat 4 slices of pizza, she's going to be like, hey, that ain't how you get under 200 pounds, buddy. She keeps me in check. So to be precise, it requires intention. Our closing charge, and I'm sorry this is a quick podcast. Like I said, I just get off work, so it's time for me to go to bed. But our closing charge this week: drifting never leads to impact. If you want to hit the mark spiritually, you must aim intentionally. Small target, clear focus with consistent effort. God honors clarity and commitment. Now aim small and move. I want to thank y'all for joining in for another week. If you are checking this out on YouTube or wherever you're listening to it, share it to your friends, share it to somebody that needs to hear this. Find God in the Timber on all social media platforms. Um, like I said, July the 17th through the 19th, I'll be in Birmingham at the World Deer Expo in the Buzzaroo Saddles booth. So y'all come check the saddles out and come talk to me. I like talking. But yeah, thank you. This is fun. I love doing these podcasts, and I will see y'all, or hopefully see y'all. If you're watching it on YouTube, I'll see y'all. Technically, I won't see y'all. I'll just see my phone. But next Thursday at noon Central Standard Time. Y'all have a good one and have a great week.